So Grand Theft Auto the Trilogy Definitive Edition launched, and it's been rough. Not to say that there aren't good things about it. There's a lot that definitely has been enhanced, but also plenty of stuff that just looks awful and worse than even the PS2 Classics version of these games. Now, if you recall, the trailer showed off some shots that looked better than I expected when I saw this trailer, which obviously handpicked some of the more, some of the better looking differences. So right here we have a scene from San Andreas before and after. Like, this is clearly an improvement. Now, the character models, that drew some controversy with how cartoony and almost Sims-like they look. But, this was one of those, I guess we'll have to play the final game and see how it all pans out kind of situation. But some of the models really look dreadful, and I'll show you in a bit. But environments, at the very least, definitely a lot of people agree got an upgrade, like this shot shows before and after. Like, that's a night and day difference, lighting and stuff like that. Textures obviously have gotten an enhancement. And, sceneries like this definitely look a lot more colorful and pop a lot more in the new one. And then this is also a good example of some of the model enhancements and texture enhancements we see in the game. There are people acknowledging that the environments have definitely gotten an upgrade, and there are definitely people having fun with this game because the gameplay enhancements are definitely there. Everything just feels closer to modern GTA 5 mechanics, which is a welcome addition to these older games whose gameplay didn't age particularly well. But when we're dealing with a remaster of some classic games coming from Rockstar, charging $60 for this, you just expect more. You just expect significantly better attention to detail and a better just striving for quality, which doesn't seem to be the case here, and that's why you're getting Reddit posts like this. My reaction, GTA Remastered trailer, smiling, GTA Remastered release, disappointment. Here's somebody else who posted this. Vice City and San Andreas characters in the original, Vice City and San Andreas characters in the definitive edition, with this classic meme. Which finally brings us to the comparisons we've been seeing online, with many fans unhappy about some of the changes that lean too much into cartooniness or just straight up change the facial model and character models across the board enough where it's almost unrecognizable and significantly uglier. So right here we have a Reddit post whose headline reads just, "Oh my," and you can see on the PS2 version, it's definitely blurry textures, but it was implemented in such a way where there is some semblance of realism here, whereas the cartoony Sims-like version with the uncanny eyes, this is Mass Effect up here, and this is Mass Effect Andromeda down here, is what this reminds me of. Now, this one is kind of egregious. So this is the model for one of the characters, and those who played San Andreas will immediately notice that something's very off, because this is what she looked like in the original game. She looks nothing like it in the definitive edition, and she wasn't enhanced. This is definitely a far creepier, far more uncanny, a far worse version of this character. And understandably, people are looking at this and going, what the fuck? How'd you mess something simple like this up? And tweets like this are getting tons of traction. This one alone has over 78,000 likes. Some characters look like they've been swapped out completely, with old Reese, for example, no longer being old. This is the old character model, and aside from looking more realistic, he actually looks like an old person, and now he's this youthful looking guy. It makes no sense. And then some character models look downright disturbing, like this lady right here who looks like a character model from like Dark Souls 1, if you know what I mean. This is what she looked like in the original game. The proportions are obviously still exaggerated, but looks a lot more natural than whatever this monstrosity is. Oh, you know what this reminds me of? The Kylo Ren meme. They totally Kylo Ren'd her, and it is not a sight that I want to behold. There are also people who have taken umbrage with the game's draw distance and how it handles that. The original game wasn't designed to have an extensive draw distance, and so implementing that in this definitive edition, even with its graphical enhancements, it can still look quite off. So clicking on this image, I can show you exactly what that looks like. You can really see all the way to the edge of the map, but it's just a very bad look with a lot of low detail models being apparent. And here's another image from Twitter that also highlights this. You can see right here, you can see all the way to the edge of the map, but it creates this bizarre visual effect where it almost feels like you're seeing stuff you're not supposed to be seeing. This stuff should be fogged up a bit to make the transition and hard lines here just a bit less prominent and make things look just a bit smoother and more natural. Other areas where the game got worse is it features some baffling typos. Like this Reddit user pointed out, is this supposed to say air guitars? And there's a shop right here that reads our guitars from $1.99, and then another typo can be seen down here, or I don't know if this was an intentional change, but here is a Reddit user who said this is unforgivable. And you can see that apart from the fact that the font here is a lot more generic compared to the original, the slogan below has been changed from the taste of a real man's meat to the taste of a real man's heat. I want to say this was a typo and not a change made because this was too inappropriate, given that all of GTA is wildly inappropriate and there's far more inappropriate stuff compared to this, and it's just baffling that stuff like this just wasn't checked. It really feels like this game was rushed, that they could have used a couple more months to refine everything and to really comb through all of the models and textures and make sure they were up to par, but instead we're getting an experience where there are enough uncanny elements that it can detract from the overall experience and in some cases just make it worse compared to the original. And there are plenty of examples of little typos like this. This Reddit user jokingly titled this post Definitive Edition, completely misspelled, and you can see in this screenshot perfumes with an I instead of an E, how it's properly spelled. And then there are the character models and their bizarre skeletal infrastructure, like this guy right here, me heading home to play GTA tonight, and the number of bones and joints that are interconnected here, whatever the hell this shape is, this is the stuff in nightmares. This is definitely not normal. Scrolling further down, here's somebody who posted, I'm at a loss for words, how can they get away with this shit? And just look at this character model. Need I explain more? In the shape of Patrick Star for some reason. Further down, somebody posted a video of first-person gameplay and trying to look backwards, playing San Andreas on PS5, don't look behind you when first person on the quad bike, it's cursed, and playing the video you can see what is meant by this. Alright, we need to call an exorcist for this one. And then moving along, we got some physics issues that people have encountered. Now, these are pretty funny, not gonna lie, but obviously disruptive to gameplay if it happens too often. People posting stuff like this where out of the blue the car decides to become a frisbee. And then scrolling down here, we got an example of things not going as they should during cutscenes. Again, hilarious stuff, but should not be happening. Certainly breaks immersion. Once again, we got a situation where a character's skeletal model is behaving bizarrely and in a very abnormal way. But yeah, you get the idea, and there's been plenty of ridicule going around surrounding some of this game's myriad flaws. So this post, for example, makes fun of the joints and the bone work here. Somebody else posted the anatomy of a gangster and mapped out the bones here, which, yeah, this is kind of what it looks like currently. Little visual glitches like this, where, for example, this dude's number 9 shirt has a number 7 transposed, and obviously this is a visual bug that wasn't meant to be there. Again, just a severe lack of attention to detail. Then we have a Twitter user showing how textures haven't scaled properly, and that's why road signs, for example, and road markers are all whacked out, just completely off the mark. Then next up, we got some visual glitches like this that apparently are relatively commonplace. Here's another one where the model and texture of this cliffside looks all kinds of wacky and all kinds of bugged out. And then in a separate tweet, we have yet another example of road markers that are way off whack, where things do not align and where it looks pretty bad. Another complaint has been how the remaster handles rain, where it's too prominent. You know, rain should be kind of subtle. I mean, water is transparent. But in this game, it's not raining water, it's raining milk with how white the droplets look, to the point where when it starts raining heavily, it's just really hard to see anything. And this user kind of really highlights this. GTA San Andreas, Xbox Series X, rain is pretty overwhelming. Yeah, it's just rough on the eyes without question. I mean, it just pops out too much and it's too distracting. Here's more bizarre behavior from the game, with one of the NPC's fingers being replaced by hot dogs for some reason. Okay, that's hilarious. Distracting, but hilarious. Some of the characters' faces don't render properly, like this demon spawn from deeper hell. Some people were also disappointed to find that bugs from the mobile version of San Andreas, which a lot of people absolutely hate, a lot of people consider it a very bad port, made its way into the definitive edition remastered. And here we have a Twitter user who bullet pointed some of this stuff, some of the familiar bugs from the mobile version that they encountered. It is mentioned how the remaster leaves the jetpack in the air like the mobile version, falling from a height into the water and not sinking like in the mobile version, swimming slowly with high frame rates. And you can see precisely what this user means when you check out this footage of CJ falling into the water. He doesn't sink into the water. It's almost like he just stops in his tracks right on the surface, whereas in the original, it was a lot more realistic. When he falls, this is what happens. You can see he sinks into the water, and this is more realistic when it comes to how it compares to real-life physics. But yeah, you get the idea. These are some of the most prominent of the issues that have been pointed out, and on Reddit you'll even find one post that in one image compiles all the visual issues that people have been pointing out. And zooming into that, you can see that, yeah, I've already covered a lot of this stuff, but you got stuff like this where guns are not facing the right way, and the way this guy is holding the bat, obviously that looks way off, or he's not closing his fingers around the bat, and the bat is positioned weirdly in conjunction with his hand. Just, there are things that are misaligned, and models just don't look great in many areas. And making matters worse is that the Switch version of GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition performs extremely poorly to the point where people are saying, I can't play this. For example, we got Destin here noting that the Switch version of GTA Trilogy is not good. Like, I hear the other versions aren't great, but I started with a GTA Trilogy on Switch for analysis. You can see the stuttering immediately, and well, yikes so far. Expect a performance review video soon on IGN, and you can see how the frame rate falls well below the 30 FPS mark. Hell, it's struggling to maintain even 20 frames per second, with the frame rate in this area at least stuck between 20 and 15 frames. Not great. If you're going to release a Switch version of a game, make sure it runs properly, and it's baffling that this game can't run well on Switch, given that even with the remastered graphics, it doesn't look so good that you'd think this wouldn't be able to run on Switch, given how many games on Switch look significantly better than this game and run far smoother. And this is something that Alex Olney from Nintendo Life echoed with a tweet that reads, "You wouldn't expect the frame drops you get from a game that looks like this." Here we have YouTuber Spawnwave who corroborated this and was even harsher with the sentiments. "I actually had to stop playing GTA 3 on the Switch because of the frame rate. It's that bad. I will hold off and see if a patch comes at some point." And then with the PC version, for some reason, that was pulled from Rockstar's store, and Rockstar's launcher broke out of the blue, and so a lot of the services are completely inaccessible currently, and the game itself is inaccessible currently. And as of the writing of this article, the launcher had been down for over 18 hours, and there's still no estimate for when things might come back. There's also some stuff from the original game that's missing in the remaster, like some songs. According to PC Gamer, GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition radio stations are missing over 20 songs. And what's interesting is that they weren't even removed entirely from the game's files. It was actually discovered by data miners that the missing music is in there. They've just been essentially turned off. And I'm assuming these songs' removal might have something to do with licensing, whatever the case might be. While this one isn't the biggest deal in the world, there's still plenty of tracks. The fact that this is all on top of all of the other problems that I previously pointed out compounds the issue. If other facets of the game are great and then there's some music missing, people might be able to overlook that stuff. But when this stuff keeps adding on top of each other, it just creates a scenario where it's very obvious that the game should not have launched when it did. It should have very clearly been delayed. And beyond the removal of some music, there are even some cheats from the original that have been removed for what they claim to be technical reasons, whatever that means. Then maybe they should have taken the time to resolve the technical issues that caused conflicts with the cheats, if that even is the legitimate reason. And they should have just taken their time to make this the definitive version. How can you call this the definitive version when it's missing stuff from the original and when many aspects of it do look worse than the original, looks just completely off-putting. And keep in mind that for those who haven't bought the classic GTA games, those were removed to be replaced by the definitive edition, which, while improves the game in many areas, also makes some things worse. And the launch of what initially looked like a better than expected looking remaster has culminated in posts like this gaining a lot of traction. Rockstar should be ashamed of the GTA Trilogy remaster. First off, there's a reason Rockstar showed next to no gameplay of this game. Think back to any recent release and they've always done a gameplay overview, but obviously that's not the case with this remaster. And the fact that there's still a review embargo in place, Rockstar knew exactly what they were pitting out. Indeed, they didn't really send out review copies for early reviews and early previews and early impressions, which goes to show the level of confidence that they had for this and the fact that they knew that this was a rough product that they didn't want to get negative press out of before its release. I've played a few hours of San Andreas on Game Pass, and good God, there are a boatload of glaring issues. Why is there even an option for fidelity and performance? A game this old should give you the best of both worlds. One of the most frustrating is the fact that when it rains, you can't really see what the hell's happening on screen, as the streaks of rain look like they're white, not transparent. This is a prime example of a corporation trying to pull a fast one on a loyal fan base. I know this is just a Reddit echo chamber, but if this dissuades even 5 people from buying the game, it's worth it, and this post has garnered over 13,000 upvotes as of the recording of this video. And you're getting plenty of takes that echo headlines like this: the new GTA Trilogy looks great but feels unfinished. Many people on social media have expressed this sentiment. There are definitely places where this game does look significantly improved. The gameplay is definitely significantly improved, but this very much feels like the priority was to get this out to meet certain financial quotas rather than ship the game when it's absolutely ready. And this is all an especially bad look given that Take-Two and Rockstar have been going out of their way to take down mods of older Grand Theft Auto games. Headlines like this were common throughout 2021. GTA parent company Take-Two is issuing takedown notices to GTA modders. Take-Two goes on another Grand Theft Auto mod killing spree. They specifically targeted mods that either overhauled older GTA games or that brought content from older GTA games into a newer one, and had previously raised the suggestion that it almost feels like Take-Two and Rockstar are insecure about their own remaster, almost as if they know that modders can do better, and that's why they're taking them down, even though, you know, that stuff doesn't really affect the sales of the official releases of these games, because modding is still very much a niche scene. The fact that modders were being treated the way they were, even though they greatly contributed to keeping these games alive, was bad enough, but now optics are made worse by the fact that the official remaster didn't really do that great of a job, or it didn't meet certain quality standards as it should have, given how big these companies are, and given that this is an official release. Like, if they were gonna go on a mod killing spree, the least they could have done was achieve the highest quality possible for this remaster, but instead they just decided to get it out when it wasn't fully cooked, and now we're seeing all kinds of ridicule and backlash. And it's a shame, because it really felt like, when I watched the trailer at least, this remaster showed a lot of potential, but I guess they decided to only show us the good bits and hide the bad. Again, reviewers didn't get an early copy for a reason. Anytime a company does something like this, it indicates that they're fully aware that the quality of the product isn't where it should be, but they're deciding to rush it out anyway. And it's a damn shame, because this could have been a celebratory moment. Finally, Rockstar giving us proper GTA content, but they managed to bungle this one enough where the news cycle surrounding it currently is more negative than it is positive. And look, if you're having fun with this package, and that's great, but you can both have fun with something and acknowledge that there are issues that are unacceptable at the price that they're asking, and given the kind of standing this company has financially, resource-wise, they could have done better than this. Or at least that's one man's take on the rough launch of Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Definitive Edition. Let me know in the comments below what your experience has been like with this game, if you bought it and played it, and what you think about the conversation happening surrounding this game release. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.